Today's show is brought to you in part by Rapid River Knife Works, home of Michigan's largest custom knife factory showroom. The UP is home to a wealth of great places, natural wonders, and unique people. It's also a land steeped in tradition. Traditions like hunting, and in many cases, hunting means going to camp. We'll pay a visit to a camp that dates back to the early 1940s.
And just paneling.
Sit back, put your feet up and the remote down, and stick around for the special edition of 906 Outdoors UP Camp Stories.
Up here, we just turn back the clock, live life the way we want it to be.
9 million acres of forest, 1,700 miles of continuous shoreline, 4,300 lakes, 12,000 miles of streams, more than 300 waterfalls, 15 counties, 2 time zones, and 1 area code. Welcome to the Upper Peninsula. Welcome to 906 Outdoors. "906 Outdoors" is brought to you by Cooking Wild Seasonings. Make it fresh, make it yours. In 1941, the average wage was just over $4,000. A new car was $850. A gallon of gas cost 12 cents. And Don Johnson got together with some friends and purchased 400 acres of land in this camp for $750.
Victor Lardenoit was the beer distributor for Budweiser in the Norway Iron Mountain area. And he was in Jake Smith's Tavern in Iron Mountain one day making a delivery. And as he was going about his business, he overheard somebody at the bar say to the bartender, "Do you know anybody that would be interested in buying a camp with 1040s for $750? At that time, Vic didn't belong to anybody's camp or anything, but yet he was an avid hunter. So he had to round up a crew if he wanted to buy the camp. So he got a hold of my dad, Helmer Johnson, and 5 other guys were part of Camp Lindy. They bought that camp in 1928, and they named it Lindy because that was the time of the year when Lindy flew across the ocean. He told them what the deal was. Well, they thought it was pretty good, so they decided that, well, they could leave Camp Lindy and come to Camp 41. They got a nice new camp then. Oscar Trelius was a butcher. Henry Ebling was a butcher. Paul Hoheisel was a baker. Martin Anderson was a dry goods owner. Charlie Angebush was a officer for the mining company. Cliff Sharkey worked for Ford Motor Company, and Joe Van Kerkhove came from Milwaukee. I don't know what he did. Well, anyhow, that was the nucleus of the camp. In 1941, when they bought this camp, this was a logging camp. Supposedly, it was at one time on the Foster City Road. I know not where, but it was moved up here. So undoubtedly it was in sections. So it cost each one of them $135 was to their share of the camp. Deal was there that as each person should happen to pass away, their $135 would go back to the wife. It went on like that for years until it got to the point where the only 2 left of the camp was my dad, Helmer Johnson, and Vic Lardenoit. Victor Lardenoit had a son, Ernie Lardenoit, who was the same age as I am, and I'm 91. We were the only 2 left, so Vic said to my dad, "Snaky," he said, "why, instead of waiting for each one of us to die, why don't we just turn the camp over to the kids?" So they turned it over to Ernie and I. Before Ernie died, we were in the same situation. Well, I mean, we were getting to the point we're going to be done pretty quick too. So we turned it over to our kids. That's how the camp has gone on for years, and hopefully for many more years through the younger generation.
906 Outdoors is brought to you by Race Driven, your source for premier power sports products.
Our camp road at that time was 16 or 18 miles, all on a two-rut road. You couldn't get through here in wintertime. You had to put chains on to get here at the Swan-Peterson Road. That's how bad the road was. You had to make sure that you had chains with you, because as you were hunting here and you got in the snow, you really had to have chains to get out of here. It used to take us better than 2 hours to come to camp. At the present time, we do it in an hour or less. There was no such a thing as pickup trucks at that time. During their days of hunting, they always, the first day of season, whoever saw the first deer, other than a buck, they shot for camp meat. That was a ritual. Then they would take it, and then they would skin it out, and they would hang it in the swamp, and that was camp meat for the camp, for season. At that time, we had the whole area to hunt. There wasn't a camp in the area. So they pretty well had a free rein here. There was no such a thing as baiting or anything back then. And at that time too, you also got a bear license with your deer license. Oh, and also years ago, each one that came to camp brought his own bottle of whiskey or his own bottle of brandy, because whoever shot the deer, when they got home at night from the hunt, they all stand around the table and had a shot on their particular buck they got. At that time, like I said, everybody had to bring their own bottle. Now we got as much booze there as the bars got, so we don't have to worry about that. Vic was the butcher. There was a man, I went with him one day. He shot a deer, and he came in to get help. And I walked out to the swamp to help him. Well, he had a little knife about so long with a little short blade on it. He took and he skinned out this deer, completely skinned it out, took it out of the hide, opened up the hide, laid the deer down, quartered it. There wasn't one speck of hair on there. You'd think he was a neurosurgeon. And then all the deer that they shot during hunting season, when season was over, they would take it to Ebling's grocery store, because Henry Ebling was the butcher, and they'd have a night that they spent at the store, and they would cut the deer up and box it all up, and each one got their equal share regardless of who shot the deer. They all got an equal share of the deer that were shot. Nowadays, whoever shoots the deer, well, they go home with theirs, and it's up to them to do it. But those years ago, they went all to the butcher shop, and he did it for nothing. They never came to camp before hunting season. Maybe a week or 2 weeks before that, they'd come up here, and the grass was 2 feet high on the road, and it was before they got here. And when they got here, they had to cut the grass, and the sickle is up there on the wall that they used to cut the grass with. Well, then they would spend that whole day making wood for the camp for the upcoming hunting season. Then the next time they came to camp was hunting season. Some of them were able to spend the 2 weeks up here, but the majority of them spent 1 week up here. We had Paul Hoheisel had Hoheisel's Bakery, and he had a van that he used to come up here with. Well, my dad took it home, and he put false panelings in there, inside this thing, so that they could smuggle deer out of here. But in those days, the DNR used to have a checkpoint as soon as you got off the Foster City Road, just before you hit the highway at Waseda, they had a roadblock. Well, they'd search your vehicle, make you open up your trunk and everything to make sure you didn't have any illegal deer in them or anything. But with the bakery truck, we could go right through. Never no problem.
906 Outdoors is brought to you in part by Blades Bait and Tackle, your hard water connection to Little Beatty Knock. So, you've got your Cooking Wild snack stick seasoning. Making snack sticks is easy. Here's a little snack stick trick that'll make it even easier. If you've made snack sticks without casings before, you've probably done this. Roll and roll and roll some more. That does work fine, but here's a little trick that can make it even easier. Start with the typical resealable bag. This is a jumbo size, but gallon size will work also. Cut down each side and open the bag up. Place your meat, maybe a little bigger than a golf ball, near the crease in the bag. Use something flat like a scraper or a large putty knife. Flatten and push the meat toward the fold of the bag until your snack stick is the size you prefer. Open the bag and there you have it. A quick, clean method for forming snack sticks. Get more tips and a bunch of other good stuff by signing up for our newsletter at 906outdoors.com. 906 Outdoors is brought to you in part by Christ, your Northwoods neighborhood store.
We don't have running water in here. There's a spring that runs down the hill, and we have some cribs made to settle out the sand and whatever. And when I was very young and came here, we drank the water. We bring it in here in 5-gallon buckets, and we would drink it. I never thought anything of it. Of course, we don't do that anymore. We bring water from home, but we still haul in, and usually we have the younger people hauling in the buckets of water.
60-year-olds.
The 60-year-olds instead of the 69-year-olds. And then we have some of the 30-year-olds that do it, but we haul that in and we use that for doing dishes and washing up and that sort of thing. We have outside plumbing.
The walls in this camp now are all paneled with coffin boxes. And years ago, coffins used to come in boxes, and they used to get or the local undertaker, they used to go and get these boxes, and this is what they lined all the walls in our camp with.
We still cook breakfast on the wood stove, fire that up in the morning, and fry eggs and bacon and potatoes and pancakes. It's quite an experience. But I learned, my dad was the breakfast cook until not too long ago, and then I kind of took over for him, and I do the breakfast cooking now. But we've tried to keep the camp pretty much as it was for all these years, and that's what we like about it. Some guys like all of the amenities and like to have nice new things, and we just think it's part of the character of this camp, and all of the guys that have been members of this camp over these 75 years, and we like to keep it pretty much as it was. And I think all of us really appreciate that, and when we come to camp, it's really coming to camp, and we are kind of roughing it. Whenever everybody's together at camp, everybody has a good time and everybody gets along, and it's never been an issue here. So camp has always been a place that's have positive feelings for everybody, and we do enjoy coming up here. We enjoy coming up here, just our family, and I think Franny and Donnie do too, but when all of us are together, we have just as good a time. It's not, we want this, you want that, or we wish we had this, or, we want to do that, and it's never been anything of that with any of the families. It's, we've always gotten along and have always had a good time, and all of us look forward to deer season when we all get together and spend a week or more together here. And, other than going out hunting, you're stuck here. There's nothing else, so you talk, you play cards, you interact, everybody gets along and likes everybody as a personal friend, as well as being a co-owner in this camp. Everybody is a personal friend as well, and I think that's what's very important about this camp as well, and has always been that way as far as I know. When I was a kid, we used to come up here, and as a kid I didn't have any concept of where you were kind of thing, except that camp to me was here, that we were out in the middle of nowhere, and there were no camps anywhere near here. A lot of state land and paper company land. There was just nobody around. We were the only ones for miles, and it was just neat to get out here and be away from everything. And my cousins would come up and we'd go out and play in the trees out here, and it was just awesome to come up here, and came with my grandma and my grandpa Helmer, and they would be chopping wood and putzing around the camp, and we'd be out playing around. But it was just, and to this day I have that feeling, even though there are camps here, just I guess because that's the way I really remember camp, and when it really sunk into me how important this was to our family. I still get that same feeling, like you're away from everything, even though I have my cell phone with me. You just seem to be out in the wilderness and be able to be communing with nature and appreciating the smells and the sound of the wind blowing through the pine trees here. At night, when you lay in your bunk and the pine trees are out there and you hear the wind kind of just whispering through the pines, or you go outside and with no ambient light, you look up and the stars are as bright here as they are anywhere. And few rare occasions I've seen the northern lights in the sky up here are just gorgeous, and when the moon is out, and it's just a real almost spiritual feeling to be up here, and relaxing, and all your cares and things you worry about at home seem to kind of melt away, and you're just here, and you're a part of the camp, and you're a part of the area, and it's just soul inspiring, I think.
It's just so peaceful up here. You're away from telephones and you're away from traffic, and you're just out in God's wilderness.
All the pancakes you made me to eat.
Yeah. Here's to Jack Osborne.
Jack Osborne.
Schmack's good.
Yeah.
.906 Outdoors is brought to you in part by Orion Hunting Products. It's time for a .906 Outdoors Wild Game Break, brought to you by Orion Hunting Products.
We're building our 10-foot elevated tower. It's made up of these three members. These are your legs, your horizontals, and then your angles.
The components for the tower sections are made up out of three parts. All of those are the same whether you're doing a 5, 10, or a 15-foot tower.
And depending on where the member is used, on a 5-foot, 10-foot, or 15, we'll attach these at different hole length.
You only need two tools, a 9/16 impact wrench and a 9/16 combination wrench. We've found that the easiest way to do this is to build it upside down. If you figure out where you want the blind to end up in the long run, you shift it over 13, 15 feet, so that when you roll it over and stand it up, it ends up where you want it positioned when you're all done.
So today we are assembling a 10-foot staircase. These are going to get attached together with some bracketry, and then we're going to add the arm rails. The handrails are just repeating parts. We have a vertical handrail and then the actual horizontal handrail.
And I've got everything tied together. Now I can go through and tighten all of the hardware up except for the very top where the feet are, because those are adjustable, so we'll leave those loose in case we need to adjust them to account for uneven ground.
So we've got the tower up. As of right now though, it's a little uneven. Rarely do you put a tower up in a place that's got perfectly level ground. So what's really nice about our leveling leg feature is we have 5 different holes. We'll just pop these bolts out, adjust this leg down, and that'll help stabilize that tower. One of the most important aspects of these towers is to make sure it's anchored properly. So your tower will come with 6 pound-in rebar anchors for each of the corners and a 32-inch screw-in plate anchor. Get it started with one of the rebar rods in the package. Start turning. Very important to get all of these mounted in and pounded down before ever trying to go up in your tower. Thread the other end of your ratchet through the eye of your ground anchor, cinch it up. If you give that strap a couple twists, it'll keep that strap from flapping in the wind. We're all set. All of our stairs have a hook and bolt system. Place this hook on that rod, bolt it through, and we should be good to go.
Feel free to join us on Facebook or visit us at 906outdoors.com. Thanks for watching, and we invite you to join us next week for another adventure right here on 906 Outdoors.